Hello, everyone. Welcome to our growth series, formula series. This is going to be our retaining and leading your A team. So last month I did another one. So we have this series going throughout the year, and this is retaining and leading your A team. So just going forward, this is what we have coming forward. So the one after this in June is going to be the right business rhythm for growing your business, and then there's ones after that as well. So this is all on our website for intelligent outsourcing. If you want to have a look there, just under events. So they are there if you want to have a look. It's on that about section. I'll just go through these at the end as well, just so you know what's coming up. These are the ones that you've missed. If you have missed any, they are available on YouTube. So the Intelligent Outsourcing YouTube channel. If you want to go there, you can just go and see these. The last one was how to build your team with A players. So that's the last one that we did. And this one is moving on from that series. So we did do how I nailed Naylor Accountancy Services. We just created that title because we thought the pun on words was interesting and funny. So that's why we did that. It's also part of a talk I do at conferences or anywhere, which is obviously a longer format. And it's also getting yourself set for success. We did as well, and we did how to beat the blues, but that was back in Jan. That's not part of the series, but that was one we did. So without further ado, I'm going to start thought of the day. I love quotes. So if you have read my book or you've seen my book, you will see that. But great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. And that's Steve Jobs, which is interesting. So we'll talk about Steve Jobs later, but that's a great analogy. So collaborative effort and teamwork is essential basically for achieving any significant goals. Is what without a team, you can't do anything. So I love this quote. So great things in business are never done by one person. So that's you as leader, you can't do everything. And they're done by a team of people all around you. So most of you may know me, but I'm just going to go through this really quick. Why listen to me? I've got my own accountancy firm, Naylor Accountancy Services. I've been MD of that since 2011. I actually already set it up in about November. So putting 2011 in is a bit of a swizz. It should be 2012. My first client was February 2012. I started from next to, well, nothing. I literally just got one client from a friend, actually. And then I've grown Naylor Accountancy Services since then. So now we're about 750, maybe even 800K in turnover. And we're looking to grow more as well with acquisitions. Starting Intelligent Outsourcing, I did in 2016, and we're growing. Now we're 100 people here. I'm actually now in one of our offices in the Philippines. It's dark outside. I've just got here after Caltex London, so after a long trip. So we wanted to just do this webinar as soon as I got here. So the agenda, just so you know what's coming up, it's always worth knowing that. Definition of leadership. I'm going to just take through that. It's a very brief definition, just so we're on the same page and how we're looking at it. We're going to look at how to lead your team effectively. There's two different ways that, and I'll take you through that. You can do it. I mean, just to be very, on a broad brush approach. And there's one that's good and one that's bad. They both work, but one of them is definitely better, in my opinion. And then leader qualities. There's going to be 8 of these, so there'll be leader qualities we'll go through, and I'll just explain why. Then there'll be retain and manage your A players. We'll just talk about that, why it's important. And then we're going to have 7. There'll be actually 7 key factors for retaining key team members, or any team members really, but factors for retaining team members. And offshore team, I'm going to mention that very briefly at the end, because that's one way I've managed to do what I do, and other people are doing it as well. So I'm just going to mention that very briefly at the end. What is leadership? So this is the definition. So leadership is basically all about influence, and it requires followers. You cannot be a leader if you basically don't have followers, because you need followers in order to be a leader, because they need to be brought aboard with your vision. Once you've got a vision, It's basically ensuring you can sell that vision to your team members, ensuring that they're going to be motivated towards it, because you need to get them going towards it. Because one person, like you see with Steve Jobs' quote, can't do everything. So you do need a team, but they need to be motivated to your vision. You have to be believing in that vision. We'll talk about it more as well to make sure it moves forward as well. Because if you don't, then you're not going to be able to sell it. So basically, you also it always looks at how you can add value to your team member. So always look at that. So with leadership, it's all about influence, but also as a leader, it's always look at how you can add value to your team members. And that might be, you know, by connecting them, advising them, training them, giving them opportunity to projects which did develop them, and giving them more responsibilities. The responsibility will come on about that, and empowerment, because that's the key thing in anything that we do as leaders. We need to empower people, which means trust, which is also part of my book. You know, big thing about you in the you chapter is all about being able to believe and trust in people, and letting them know if they make mistakes. That's key. So if people make mistakes, you need to tell them, and that's part of it. Because if you don't, you're not adding value to them. They're not growing. They're not learning. And just all about learning and then self-developing. That is key for any team member, if they're the right team member. If they don't want to develop and grow, unless you have a role that's absolutely fine for, because there are some roles like that, so that's absolutely fine. But they're not going to be your A team player. They're going to be your B or C. But that's absolutely fine. You want them as well, but ideally you want A players that are going to help you grow. And leaders create leaders. That's what you want. You want to be able to, within your business, create leaders to basically make you redundant for a start. You want to become redundant. And this is not good if you work in a corporate world, which I have actually done. I've made myself redundant by training other leaders up. But it's also one thing that you should be looking at doing. Everybody should be doing it, because it's the only way you as a leader develop, by seeing other leaders develop and grow. And it shows that basically you creating leadership that can take your business to the next level if you want to grow. If you don't want to grow and you want to stay still, you know that they can then keep the business where it is. But great leaders just must create and develop other leaders. And not just have minions. There's no point having minions, just yes people, because if they are, they're not going to help you grow your business at all. It's just not going to go anywhere. Or you won't be able to step away, because they'll keep coming to you asking questions, which is why you want to be creating and developing the leaders. And this is what I've always done within intelligent outsourcing and Naylor accountancy services. And it's so I could step out. Within our intelligent outsourcing, I stepped out very quickly because we had a leadership team in place. Naylor was a bigger problem. And that's because I couldn't find the talent in the UK to actually allow me to step back. Thankfully, we have that now. We've got it in abundance now, all of a sudden. But I'll take you through reasons for that. That's through acquisitions as well, so that I could actually get the talent, because I was struggling to get talent in the UK. I'll talk about that very quickly at the end. And all of this, if you aren't able to do create that as those leaders, you won't be able to step back, and you will never be able to relax as much when you're on holiday, because I know if I'm away that I've got a leadership team with both intelligent outsourcing and Naylor will look after things. In fact, I'm not that worried about things like that. I'm just developing a strategy and moving things forward in both businesses, which takes all my time anyway. So I don't want to be dealing with little things that I have no interest in either. So now John Maxwell. Now, if you know leadership, you know John Maxwell. John Maxwell is basically the grandfather of leadership. He's written so many books on leadership. He's honestly, there's loads on YouTube if you want to listen to anything straight from the horse's mouth. He's unbelievable, in my opinion. But what he said is, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So that's the leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So you have to actually show the way. You have to do the journey yourself. You can't just tell people what to do and then do something totally different. That's key for your core values, for your mission, anything. You have to be on track yourself, and you need to allow people to tell you you're off track. But that's it. So, but great leaders lead by example, and they just guide their team towards success. So it's very, very good for the next thing. So lead your team effectively for growth. So there are sort of different styles of leadership, and that's what I spoke about near the start. Now, everyone has their own personal style of, you might be introvert, you might be an extrovert, you might be whichever one or mixture. However, there are just things that and qualities that you need to succeed in your style, regardless of what style you are. And it's always worth doing that, profiling yourself and your team, and I'll definitely do it for your leadership team and yourself. I covered that last month's one. But this is what you want to be. You want to be a multiplier. Now, the multiplier is the one that creates the leaders and helps them grow. A diminisher is not what you want to be. So a diminisher is one that is sort of diminishing people and making sure that they are minions and they come into micromanage. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail. But this is all coined in term by someone called Liz Wiseman. Now, Liz Wiseman wrote a book called Multipliers, How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter. I was actually brought to this book by my wife, who was in the US because she works for a US company. And this Liz Wiseman came to talk to everybody there and gave the book away. And I just looked her up and everything when my wife came back, and she told me about her. And this has really played on me. If you want to know more about her, she's got some things on YouTube. She does a Google seminar, which is awesome. But Liz and some other things like that. But Liz Wiseman, the multiplier, how the best leaders make everyone smarter. It's definitely worth a read or just listen to anything on YouTube or watch it. But the terms are two distinctive types of leaders and how they impact their team. So the leadership, the multiplier is basically one who amplifies the intelligence and sort of capabilities of their team. And it creates the culture of trust, empowerment, encouragement of the team members, and it makes them take ownership of their work and provides opportunities for learning and growth. And the multiplier just seeks to bring the best out of their team members and just helps them reach their full potential. Now, this is something that I've done it in corporate world as well. To my detriment in a way, because you build everyone up, and then if there's nowhere for you to go, they can take over your business, your role easily, because you train them up. As a business owner, you want that. You do want that in corporate world. If you've got good people above you in corporate world, they'll see what you're doing and they'll put you up in more leadership roles, which is where you want to be going anyway. But in your own business as an entrepreneur, this is either accountancy, bookkeeping firm, or even any business. As a multiplier, you want to be looking at all this. Now, we've got some key things about what you want to be looking at as distinctive tips and everything for leaders, but we'll go that in a minute. But people who are multipliers that you may know, the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. Now, Nadella is sort of known for his transformation leadership and emphasizing empathy, continuous learning, and the growth mindset. The growth mindset is a massive thing for us in intelligent outsourcing and Naylor. We want to help people grow and develop them all the time, because they basically our future as well as our present, and we want to develop the services that we do and enhance what we do, giving more excellent and caring service to our partners and clients. But he has empowered employees. I say team members, they use employees to sort of innovate and collaborate, significantly boosting basically Microsoft market share and value. I mean, for me, I love Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft baby in that I'm an accountant, and we've always used it in the corporate world. I've always used it in my firm, accountancy firm and intelligent outsourcing. So for me, I love it. It's just got better and better with everything they give you. So like the teams, they've got the co-pilot now, which I'm interested to look at, but that's going off on a tangent. Another multiplier that you all must know is Richard Branson. Now, I love Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Group. There's his book. I can't remember what it's called now. It's not about Virgin, but Lose Your Virginity or something like that. I can't remember. But it's a great book, and anything, just to listen to. There's a Stephen Bartwell Bartlett, sorry, podcast that he did with him, which is really interesting as well, just to know more about him. So, but Branson's known to just put people first approach. That's what he's known, and valuing team members with their input and creativity. He also uses team members. If you listen to Stephen Bartlett, he does use employees at once, but he comes back and says, I only use team members, but he does actually use it in there. But you're welcome to listen to that yourself. But his leadership is sort of basically empowers the team members to take risk, innovate, and driving the diverse, success that Virgin Group is. He is a big dyslexic. He wouldn't have been able to do everything that he did without getting the right people in place and giving them leadership roles, especially on the finance side, because in his story, his book, he talks about that he didn't know what gross profit is. If you're an accountant, you will obviously, and the difference between gross and net. And then one day, I think it was in his 40s or 50s, that somebody actually, an FD, explained it to him and he got it. Another multiplier, I'm only going to do this, the last one, is Arena Huffington, founder of Huffington Post and Thrive Global. Now, Huffington, what she does is she champions the well-being and work-life balance of her team members, and sort of encourages team members to prioritize health and personal growth. Her leadership styles is sort of fostering productivity and motivating the workforce, basically. So she's gone in a different angle. So instead of not just empowering, but on the well-being. If you do contrast this, the leadership of a diminisher is basically where a leader would restrict, and you may be doing this, and there'll be lots of leaders that do this. It restricts the intelligence and capabilities of their team. Basically, it diminishes, tend to micromanage, hoard information so they don't share information, and create a culture of fear and dependency. So, which we don't really want. So, diminishers often think they know best as well, and don't trust their team members to take decisions. And basically, as a result of that, the members feel disempowered, undervalued, unmotivated, which isn't good for productivity, morale, and retention. So this is something where I talk about trust in my book as well. Like in the you must trust others, and by trusting them, you can actually delegate as well, and it empowers them. But we'll talk more about empowerment later. Really famous, and you may not realize this, although if you've watched the movie Steve Jobs, you would. That's a good one. I think it's on Netflix, but it's a really good Steve Jobs, the movie. He basically was a diminisher. So while he was a brilliant visionary, his leadership style was often sort of intense scrutiny, so micromanaging and high demands. And he could, basically stifle teammates' creativity and morale. So some people just couldn't handle him or cope with it. And his tendency to micromanage and harshly sort of criticize was diminishing for some of the team, basically. So that's Steve Jobs. Another one which you would know if you sort of listen to the news. I mean, he was the former CEO of Uber, Travis Kalanick. I don't know if I say that, Kalanick. So Kalanick was aggressive, or still is, I'm sure, and combative leadership style, so led to basically a toxic workforce environment. His focus just was on rapid growth, but at the expense of the team members, basically well-being and ethical considerations, or just diminished the team's morale and contribution significant to the legal and cultural risks. So there was a lot of legal cases against Uber, and basically this is all just because of Travis's diminisher attitude, basically, to leadership. Another one which you should know, if you've heard of Enron, the big scandal in Enron, and so that was Jeff Skilling. So Skilling's leadership, that was all characterized by focus on short term, so real short-term gains and high pressure environment. And his demise, so the dismissive sort of attitude towards dissenting opinions and unethical practices basically just led to demise of Enron's and the infamous collapse, basically. So he totally diminished team members' trust and morale, and then they were also going against the core values that they were supposed to have. I'm not going to go into their core values because he was doing it and he was pushing people to do things that were against the core values. So they both diminished. So you have Travis of former Uber, Steve Jobs, and Jeff Skilling of Enron or former. So those are diminishers. Now, leader qualities. I'm just going to take a quick drink. So being a great leader is something I aspire to, and I'm constantly looking at how I can develop, which is one of the qualities you'll see later on. And I think that if you are a leadership position, you should always be sort of considering this, and you should always be looking at your self-development. And a great leader, basically, you must sort of possess development or develop combination of skills and traits just to inspire and guide others, because you need to be the best to help people lead, but you also need to know that you are never perfect, because nobody's perfect, and as leaders we certainly aren't. But we always need to be looking and aspiring to be better and for wisdom and get clarity on where you are going and what you need to do to help others. So great leader is someone who's not only has a clear vision of where they're going, where the business is going, but also effective communicator and motivates others to achieve their goals. So what I find is that if I can't believe in the vision, I'm never going to be able to get anyone else to believe it. I must believe in the vision before I can actually get others to believe in it. But I think we'll bring him up on this as well, because you want a clear, strong vision. And if that doesn't happen, you're not going to bring your team on board. But your team, you really want them to help on that vision as well. But here are some essential quality tips. So, and then just a little bit more detail. So one is vision. I've talked a little bit about that already. So you must, as a leader, have a clear vision of the future. But that's going to inspire the others in your team to work towards the vision. And I always recommend you develop the vision with your leadership team, like I say, because that enhances it. And what I've found within Naylor Accountancy Service and Intelligent Outsourcing, I've started the vision, and the whole 10-year vision, and 5, 3, and then the 1 year. And then what they've done is they've developed it further. So with that, they've developed it even bigger than I had, and they've made me see that we can develop it bigger as well. So that's happened every year. We do it in the annual strategic meeting. It's part of the rhythm of the business, which I'm going to cover in the next Growth Formula 1, but it's also in my book as well, the Firmly One. Then communication. Communication, I've mentioned it enough already, but good communication skills are just essential for any leader. The ability to articulate ideas and goals clearly, listen actively, we'll talk about that, but you must be listening actively, and provide some great feedback to everyone. It's key to basically building the relationships within the team, because it creates the environment and tools to aid communication. So you want to be making sure you're communicating and everybody's communicating with each other. Now, in the modern era, it didn't used to be like this, but empathy is what is needed by a great leader, because they need to understand the needs and feelings of others and can empathize with them. Now, this didn't used to be in the old days, sort of where it was like production line forward type thing, but empathy is now in the modern world a really good skill set for any business leader to have, or any leader or any organization. Without that empathy, you're going to struggle to bring your leadership team and your team along with you. And it creates a positive work environment where team members feel valued and motivated, which is key in today's society. If people don't feel motivated and valued, they're not going to want to stick around, basically. Adaptability. Now, this is key for any entrepreneur and any leader, because you need to have the ability to adapt to changing circumstances, because they can change so quickly, and it's critical. So great leaders can pivot quickly and make decisions in a dynamic, fast-paced environment if that's required. If you are a FTSE 100, you're not going to be making decisions that quickly, because everything goes on your profitability and hitting those targets, so people get their dividends, so people don't make decisions. As a SME, you can make decisions quickly, and that's where SME leadership and SMEs come in place. We can actually make quicker decisions. Accountability. Now, this is one of our core values in both Intelligent Outsourcing and Naylor, accountability, and everybody should be accountable, from the leader, top leader, all the way down to the cleaner or whoever. Everybody's accountable for what they do. So great leaders take responsibility for their actions and decisions, and also willing to admit when they're wrong. But as a leader, you need to be taking accountability for everybody else below you, because they are effectively reporting to you. Obviously, you've got all the side, the people coming up, they have the responsibility for their seats, what we call seats or areas, hats, and then it goes down. So it's sort of, if you are willing to admit, admit when you're wrong as well, and be accountable, it sort of builds trust and respect among team members, as nobody's perfect, either you or them, and you want people to call you out and be accountable if you're not, and the same other way around. Any of the leaders calling each other out, it always comes back to you anyway, whatever happens. Say courage. So leaders must have courage to basically take risk and make difficult decisions. And that might be making someone redundant as well, which I've had to do, unfortunately, on occasions, but it's not easy when that happens. Sorry. I've got the tail end of a cough that I can't get rid of. So with courage, it's basically, even in the face with uncertainty and opposition, you do need to be courage to take a decision, make a decision, because you need to go down one path and then either make that decision work, or if it isn't work, then make another decision once you realize it's not the right path. We have to be courageous. Now, listening. Now, that to me is one of the most important things of any leader. And I say it to our leadership team, because we do have some leaders who are very bad at listening. I used to be bad at it. So I realize how important it is. If I'm really annoyed with someone and they're really not getting it, then I might butt in. Otherwise, I try and let everybody speak before I do say something. Also, I will butt in if we literally are running out of time because someone's waffling. I can't have people waffling too much, because you have meetings certain length of time, but you must listen to people. And it is key to team members, because they need to know that you understand them and what people are, and you need to also understand what people are thinking. So they say, I don't know who said this, but you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and there's a reason for it, so use them. And it is something I do keep saying to some of my leaders. They do need to listen. Because if you listen, you can understand if they're understanding what you want them to do. You can understand if they get what they are doing, as in they really understand it. They want what they are doing, so they actually want to do what they're doing. And if they've got capacity, that's time and even brain power to actually do it. So that's by listening, you get to learn a lot, basically. And by listening, you can see if they've understood the vision, which is the main thing, and what the goals are, and what the organization you're in is all about. So by listening to others, you actually sort of ensure the team feel that you care about them and their opinion as well. And listening to them actively doesn't mean that you're going to be taking their advice on board. You can repeat back what they've said, but you don't have to agree with that advice that they're giving you or what they say. You can say, I hear this, I hear you, but unfortunately, this is where we're going to go. But it ultimately leads to more retention, basically. I've alluded to this already, continuous development. So this is basically, self-development to me is so important. There's so many things now there for us all to do. Podcast, YouTube. YouTube I love, because you can actually get it straight from the horse's mouth, like Simon Sinek, the John Maxwell's, or even the old guys that are dead, like Jim Rohn. And you've got Brian Tracy, who's still around, God bless him. But you've got all these other ones, and you can even go right back to Napoleon Hill. So Think and Grow Rich. So you can listen to stuff from him, Napoleon Hill, actually see him talking. It's very different, obviously, now, but it's straight from the horse's mouth. You've got audio books, you've got the physical books as well. So a bit like, I've got a physical book here, the firm you want. I need to do it on audio. I haven't done that yet. That's one of my to-dos. But great leaders are always seeking to learn and improve, and both personally and professionally. And basically, you want to be staying ahead of the curve. So by learning, and you guys on this webinar now, I'm looking to impart some of my knowledge and experience to you. You may know all this, you may know most of it, and you hopefully get some extra knowledge from at least one thing from this, and then you can either take action or you've actually got something that you can work with. But for me, there's so much out there now. There's a plethora, like say, books, YouTube, audiobooks, podcasts. There's loads to do, and you can do it when you're walking, driving. I do it when I walk the dog, driving to the office, on airplanes. So I've been listening to a book on an airplane. It's really actually a good one. It's an interesting one. It's Shoe Dogs by Phil Knight, so the Nike owner, basically entrepreneur. I've only got to 1976 or something like that, so I've got loads to go, but it's a really interesting journey. But that's just one thing I'm listening to. And I love doing that sort of thing. I listen to them more than read. I do both. I do get the book and then I flick through it, go to what I need to, and then sort of put notes in it. But these are 3 leader qualities: so vision, communication, empathy, adaptability, accountability, courage, listen. I think that's one of the most important lists. I mean, vision and listening and communication and then continuous learning. To be fair, they're all pretty good. So moving on to recruitment and retention, A players. It's the hardest part to grow your business. So you recruited your A players. We've talked a bit about that last webinar on A players, getting them in, profiling them, doing an avatar first, profiling, then when you're coming in, do a letter of expectation of what you're expecting from them, make sure they get that. You're never going to get the 100% avatar, but once you've got that 80, then you want to retain them as long as they're performing as you want them to. So this quote I actually love because it's a long quote, so I apologize for that, but a CEO of top leaders, but it's Fashad Assi. So it's retaining top talent isn't merely a strategy, it's an art. The canvas is trust, this is like the art emphasis. The palette is accountability, which we talked about. We talked about trust as well. Love is the brush. Empowerment is the colors. No micromanagement is the space. And the teamwork is the picture we create. So that's his quote. So retaining top talent isn't merely a strategy, it's an art. The canvas is trust. The palette is accountability. Love is the brush. Empowerment is colors. No micromanagement is the space. And teamwork is the picture we create. Now, like I've said, recruitment and retention of your team is the hardest thing to do. There are sort of loads of books written by gurus on recruitment and retention. And the key to retention is to get the right people in the first place, the right business people for your business, and get them to buy into your vision. So I actually had somebody leave my NAS leadership team in the Philippines, actually, but I was I thought they bought into the vision because they were within it and everything. But then the more I sort of probed, he hadn't, and I couldn't understand it because I felt like what had changed because I was probing as well. So as soon as they don't buy into the vision, I know there's no future. Because if people aren't bought into your vision, they're not going to drive you forward to where you want to be. So I knew I couldn't have him as a leader anymore, not until he bought into the vision. And his mindset had changed into something that was really negative, what I call below the line, so blaming, excuses, denying. So I knew straight away it wasn't right for my leadership for Naylor Accountancy Services. So I was very happy for him to leave. I still in touch with him. I think he's brilliant. He said his mindset's changed again. I tried to help him change his mindset, but he wouldn't allow that to happen. So mindset's a massive thing. You need to have the right people. If they're not the right people, right mindset, not buying into your vision, or your core values, then you need to be moving them on or having conversations to help them actually get there. But I spoke about this in my webinar as well, how to build your 18 players. That was last month's April's one, which you can see on YouTube. And you'll always just have team members leaving. That does happen, unfortunately. You can never stop that because you can never know what's happening in people's lives and their heads, which is, I've just mentioned that just happened to me recently, sadly. That was back in sort of December, January. And you can't beat yourself up on it and just get straight out recruitment and replacing that person. If you've got a pipeline of talent, if you are a multiplier and building leaders, you will have people coming up in that pipeline, and then you can carry on that leadership. You're not worried. What you're hoping as well, if people do leave, they'll go ahead and do a better job. So in the intelligent outsourcing leadership team, we had a couple of people leave to go to Canada. I'm going to be talking to them about things that they might get involved with in the future, potentially in Canada. But you always want to be, I'm proud of both of them to everything they've done, and they've also realized what we were able to by empowering them and everything in intelligent outsourcing. They've grown so much through that and what we do. So you are giving them the tools, and Richard Branson talks about that. Train people enough so they can go elsewhere, but they'll want to stay because they're motivated to stay with you or even come back to you. So if they do go, so it is helping them, giving the tools. So like I talked about creating the avatar, I covered that in the last webinar, and always give feedback for those leaving, so you know what drove them to go. So that's like with the person that left me, you understand what's happening in their head, why they're going, what's happening. And recruiting is currently just a massive problem in accountancy within the UK and around the world, Canada as well, US. So that's why you want to retain and make sure you get the right people coming in. Because salaries have skyrocketed worldwide for accountants, which is amazing. It's great if you're an accountant, not potentially if you're a business owner of an accountancy firm, but you want to keep them. So that's, we'll go into more detail on that shortly as well. But basically, other thing that we've heard about lots of people is it's accountants, and this is the UK because I've heard it from UK accountants, is that accountants aren't going into firms and practices, accounting firms, because there's a lot more stress and a lot more different things that they have to deal with. They prefer to go into commerce and industry. The reason being, not only is it more homogenous because it's just one product, one business, they get paid more. So the businesses tend to pay more than accountancy firms in the UK. I'm sure that's other ones as well. I had a massive issue growing Naylor accountancy services when I was doing it, getting talent. So I couldn't do it because I'm close to London. So I had everybody with London weighted accountancy firm or accountants wages. So that's one reason why I created intelligent outsourcing and went down that route, and then providing it to friends and then to the wider public now as well, to get great talent. So you may have that. I know other people have had that issue as well, but I think it's calming down now more in the UK on the talent pool and the salary, because inflation's come down as well. So, and then, we've developed loads of things within Intelligent House, like IO Academy, to make sure we develop the talent within there for our Naylor accountancy services and other partners, so that when they come in, it's better. But that's just to get it going. So that's all the learnings and the self-development. Key factors of retaining team members. Now we've got 7 here. Let me just check. It's 7. Yes, it is. So the first one is competitive salary. So I've just talked about that, salaries and benefits, basically. So you need to offer salaries that match or exceed sort of the industry standards. Now, this is key to retaining people and them not worried about, oh, I could earn more if I go at X, Y, Z, because then they start looking elsewhere. So you want to be paying them a good salary, and then obviously have all the rest of the trimmings around it. So as long as they're not worried about what they're earning, they're happy with that, they're not going to start looking elsewhere. So it's just making sure you've got comprehensive benefits, ensure team members feel valued financially and secure, because that's the thing, you need to make them feel secure. And it just means you're not thinking about salary when working, you just can focus on the job and be an active part of the team. So like Maslow's hierarchy, if they think they need to earn more from X, Y, Z, they'll be thinking of that in Maslow's hierarchy. Whereas if they think they've got enough and they're in line with the industry, they're not going to do that. Growth and development opportunities. Now, this is something that I really believe in. You need to give them training and career advancement opportunities and just professional development. So have training sessions available for them, for your team members, get them engaged, invest in their long-term career within the company. So make sure they've got that. Now we do that within Naylor and IO. So we've got somebody just finishing ACCA within Naylor Accountancy Services. We've got people who have done all their learning and we're looking to develop them up the ladder in what we have called the Naylor pyramid. So at the top end is like financial control. We've got compliance, financial control, FD stuff and coaching. So we're trying to move them up the FC, the financial controller and FD, and then eventually coaching type things potentially. That all depends on the individual. But we're looking to move up that. So that's where we're growing engagement. Within Intelligent Outsourcing, we have Intel IO Academy, which is where we do a lot of training. We've created a leadership, a leader and a team leader training program so they can do that, which is soft skills, a lot of mindsets. What we found was mindset's key. If we don't, you might have all the technical skills, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to develop the person, and the person's not going to develop themselves. They need to see things through different lenses and not just one, which otherwise you get that. And it's very, very critical to growing leadership as well. So we do that, plus we do the technical training as well. That's growth and development. Then you've got positive work environment. So basically creating a supportive, inclusive workspace. The culture sort of promotes jobs, satisfaction, and loyalty. And this includes recognizing achievement, promoting work-life balance. We'll talk more about that later anyway. Fostering teamwork. But the whole positive work environment. Now we'll talk about it more. We introduced an intelligent outsourcing, a 4-day work week, which was all about positive work environment and work-life balance. At the same time as keeping productivity and partner satisfaction the same. In fact, productivity should have gone up. Encourage work-life balance. I've talked a little bit about that with the 4-day work week, but the whole thing here is that you do hear about it in some firms that they are pushing to work late at night. I mean, this happens a lot. I work weekends as people, people do have work life outside of work, have a life, outside of work. So you can do this by offering flexible working hours, remote working now and then, like hybrid. Now we do, in the UK, we do like a hybrid version where they do, and some do work from home most of the time. We have that option since COVID because it works well. The output's there, they're doing a really good job. Internet's good, security's good. In the Philippines, we have a 4-day work week where they're in the intelligent outsourcing, where they're all in the office for 4 days. They work 36 hours in those 4 days. They've been gifted 35 days a year, 140 hours a year. That's what they've been gifted by intelligent outsourcing. That is for them to do what they want on the well-being side. They can spend more time with the family, friends. They can study, they can play more computer games if they're young, that's what they want to do. They can basically travel, they can do what they want with that. So they have a 3-day work weekend effectively, because they either take Monday off or Friday off. Now it works well, even with teams, because you have people covering, like you have some people taking Monday off and Friday off in the team, so you have 5-day cover anyway. But what we found is sickness has gone down. We found that productivity has maintained the same, if not gone up in some cases, because they're looking at what they can do productivity wise to keep the same same output. So that means they've looked at the workflows, they've speeded them up, they diarise everything, they make sure everything's working to clockwork. They make meetings shorter, things like that. So they've looked at lots of things. This is intelligent outsourcing for offshore team and internal to make sure it works. Now, the work-life balance isn't the same in a lot of places. So we don't work weekends. I mean, I do, but that's when I need to move things forward strategically. Some people may do it instead because we've got flexible work, and they might do that just to catch up. That's in the UK. And the reason for the flexible working in the UK hour-wise is because we've got mums and a dad actually, so where they look after the child occasionally, so they can't do the 9 to 5, so they will do different hours. As long as they get the output there, that we'll be absolutely happy with it. And I have to say that they work really hard on mums and dad. So in the UK, they actually tend to do more hours than they should in a way, because they're making sure they get everything done. But they can do it, and we just trust them, and it's all part of the trust element. Work-life balance is a massive thing. 5, so clear communication. So communication and feedback, I mean, regular and transparent communication just helps team members understand their roles, what the expectations of the leadership is, the team leaders or the business is, how they contribute to the company goals. Now, if people aren't communicating with the team, and we do see it in intelligent outsourcing, one of our partners isn't communicating with their team member, they don't know what they're doing wrong, they don't know if they are doing something wrong or right, they don't know why they're supposed to do something or even what they're supposed to do. But that's normally because a partner is so busy they're not spending time with a team member, even just saying hi to them. So communication is key. And we do, you know, if you go down the route of offshoring, we've got a whole load of stuff we can help you on there. But within your team, you want to be doing regular meetings. We have one-to-ones. I have one-to-ones with all my direct reports, which is not many, and all the leadership team. So once a month, the leadership team. My direct reports I have like every 2 weeks. I only have a few, very few. Now, and that's just so I'm clear what they're doing, and then they also, if I've got anything, they're clear what I'm expecting from them. I do have to have difficult conversations with people if they're not doing what is required, and they need to understand what it is. If they don't understand it, I'm in trouble because they're never going to get it, and then I've got potentially someone I need to get rid of, because if they can't get what they need to do, they're never going to do it. So it's all the communication and feedback, a bit of the listening there as well. So it goes in there. But one-to-ones are critical. If you're not doing them as a leader, you need to be doing them. And anybody who's got a team, they need to be doing it to their team as well. So at least once a month, that's the minimum you want to be doing. It is critical. Big tip for one-to-ones, and this is a massive tip, always at the end, especially if you've got accountants, they're all introverts. Not all, but lots of them. So they won't have that much to say. Some of them have very little to say. At the end, always say, is there anything else? Have a pause. You must have a pause. Have a massive pause, because if you don't have those pauses, you're not going to know what's coming next. I've had so many things come out, I had no idea what happening, what they were thinking. And I thought, wow, I didn't even know they thought like that. Have those pauses. And especially for the introverts, which I know a lot. I have accountants, obviously, Naylor accountancy services in the Philippines and UK who are like that. They are introverts. So I need to pause and listen, because I can talk. That's why listening was a difficult thing for me, because I am a talker. I have always been. Well, not always. I was shy at one point, but my wife doesn't believe that. But anyway, so always do that. Big tip. Is there anything else? Pause, and then see what happens. What I'd say as well is, by having the meetings, having that communication and feedback, you get to find out the big issues before it's too late to do something. And if somebody's unhappy, you know, hopefully, if they're being truthful and honesty with you, before they actually leave. If you want to keep them, if you don't want to keep them, that's a different matter. You don't mind, and that has happened on occasion. Annual performance review, feedbacks. You want that. You want feedback from clients if you can as well, but that's not so easy to get always. We look at that, and also from your partners, as well as your team leaders. Empowerment. Now, empowerment is, and it's basically giving a bit of autonomy, allowing team members to take ownership of their work and make decisions. It really boosts their confidence and sense of responsibility. Now, this is trust for you as a leader and anyone else who's a manager within your business or organization. You need to trust people in order to empower them. You can't empower them until you trust them. And what you need to realize as well is people make mistakes, and that's part of my book as well. Allow people to make mistakes, because if you don't, and I've got stories in my book about people not allowing people to make mistakes, and as soon as they have made a mistake, they just take the bloody work back. Now that's a waste of an experience. So you need to make those mistakes, even if it's losing money, as long as they're making them, learning from it, because it's a learning. It's basically what you're paying to get them to learn, is making their mistakes. Once people make a mistake, they should learn from it if they're the right people, and not do that again. And you know, we have Project Perfect within Naylor Accountancy. So any little mistake, we do it in that intelligent outsourcing as well. But if we started Naylor, any little issue, we write it up, create the solution, talk about the issue, what's the solution, and then change the process so it doesn't happen again. There will be another thing coming up, but it's just looking at those little things all the time. Well, make sure you trust and empower people. It really works. Now, just be careful. By trusting someone and empowering them, it means you delegate. It doesn't mean you abdicate responsibility. You still are responsible as the leader. You saw that in one of the key tips and qualities of a leader. You have to take accountability. So we have had that within intelligent outsourcing, where one of the leaders that actually did abdicate responsibility. They admitted it as well, rather than delegating it and to keep on top of what's happening. The only way you can keep on top of what's happening is by KPIs and one-to-ones, and actually being interested in what's happening. And don't just leave it to go off and do everything without you all knowing what's happening. But it allows you to focus on the things that you need to as well, and it grows there. Number 7, this is the last one. Ooh. Sorry, I'm going to go back because I somehow missed. Excuse me. Just a bit of water, I'm afraid. Just a massive key factor for retention, retaining team members, is having a strong leadership and a strong vision. So there's no point, you need leaders who inspire, guide, and support their team with a clear vision and direction, because it helps maintain motivation and focused workforce. I'm in Legazpi at the moment, which is one of our new offices in the Philippines. Now that's for intelligent outsourcing. And what I've noticed, I've only spoken to a couple of people because I was working on this webinar today. But what I've noticed by speaking to the people that I did this morning, and just sort of really digging into what they're doing and everything, the questions they were asking me was about our vision. It was, we changed our sort of purpose, because we basically had it slightly different. We sort of agreed to a more shortened version. So our purpose is to do good for generations. So it's to do good for generations for a reason. I want it to carry on the business when I'm dead. I've got people around me carrying on. So one of our, we provide, enrich, and give back. So the giving back is constantly giving back as well to the community where we're in and wherever, which we do, or and they're interested in all that, as well as enriching developing countries with knowledge and stuff, which we do in the Philippines, and providing sort of talent to develop countries, which we do it through accountancy people in intelligent outsourcing. So that we call it PEG. That's our mission. But they were bringing this up, so they bought into it, which I'm so proud of them and so chuffed that it's actually worked. So strong leadership and vision. A lot of that communication we do through town halls. Now, I think I'm going to talk about that later on, so I'm not going to bring that up too much. but that's why our team member know through the communication, clear communication. We do quarterly town halls within both Naylor Accountancy and Intelligent Outsourcing. We have quarterly leadership meetings, and within that, then we decide what we're going to be telling our team in the quarterly town hall. And we're going to be having one whilst I'm here in the Philippines about our last quarterly review meeting with the leadership here. And we should have one with the Naylor Accountancy Services as well. So I need to make sure I do that as well, because I realise we haven't got that. Sorry, I'm writing a note. But the town hall is critical. So with the town hall, we tell people what's happening, what we're doing. But what happens, we get feedback as well, because we open it up to questions. So we really should talk about number 5 in the clear communication and feedback. But within that, what we do is we talk about what's happening, where we're going, what's changing, what we've done, where we're going to. So they know our vision, they know our mission, they know our purpose. It's their vision, their mission, and their purpose as well. So they need to buy into it. But the other thing is they can ask us questions. Now that does become uncomfortable, I assure you, because sometimes we don't know what they're going to ask us. In the Philippines, they're not used to that, because they're not used to being able to talk to the leaders, but they have full access to the leadership team in that town hall, including myself if I'm in the UK, and Dee Smith and the rest of the team. What we find is they do it anonymously. They won't say who it is, which is absolutely fine, because otherwise they wouldn't ask us the question, and I'd rather them ask us the question. If we can't answer it there and then, we'll say, let's get back to you. We need to look into it, and we'll get back to you. Or we can't answer that right now because we're not being open with that right now. We will in the future once that goes down. That's happened very rarely, to be fair. I think maybe once. But that communication creates that strong leadership as well, because they see you as leaders, and they believe in the vision, because they can see you believe in it and they actually hear the vision. Otherwise they wouldn't hear it. But it's to have strong leadership is absolutely critical for you as a leader, so that you can focus on what you need to be doing and not worry about the details. So for me, I don't worry about the details of things. They will come up in our weekly meetings and leadership meetings. So I'll have a discussion about it, but then I know they'll go away, the leadership team, and deal with it. This is both Intelligent Outsourcing and Naylor Accountancy Services. And there's always issues, but you'll never have a business without issues. And if you don't have any issues, you know there's an issue happening soon, because it's a roller coaster. So don't ever be fooled. If everything's running really smoothly, just be aware there's something going to go down at some point, but you prepare for that. And if you've been in business long enough, like me, you'll know, and it's just part of the ride. But yeah, so have a clear, a strong leadership. And don't always be worried that what you hear people say, like on the feedback, is good stuff, because you want to hear the bad stuff as well, because if they think of things bad, it's worth you knowing it rather than just burying it and pretending you don't know. And then you can do other things. Now, for me, just having a strong leadership, last thing on strong leadership, as you as a leader, you want to step back. If you aren't growing your business, you still want to step back at some point. And you want to be able to go on holiday, not have to micromanage things while you're on holiday. I used to do all that. I was the only one doing lots of the all the relationships with the clients in their accountancy services. So I had to speak to anything urgent, any people urgently on holiday, to the annoyance of my wife. But now I can take holidays. It's more her not. I want 2 weeks holidays. I need a 2-week break, but I can't seem to get one this year because of my children doing A-levels and GCSEs, and then we've got to come back for the results. And then hopefully my daughter will go off to university in Scotland, which starts earlier as well. So unfortunately, I'll have to go. I won't be able to do, I'll have to be 2 1 weeks this year. That's just a tangent. So next, now if you know leadership, you will know Simon Sinek. Now he's got the book Start with the Why and then Leaders Eat Last, and other ones as well. Now he is someone you should definitely listen to or read if you haven't. But this quote: leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in charge. They're basically effectively leadership focused on the well-being growth of the team members. And that leads into one of the tips of qualities of a leader. And this quote also plays into the key factors of retaining team members. So within that, you've got competitive salary. I mean, that's the well-being and growth, of them, because then you need to make sure they're remunerated well. Growth and development, that's helping them. That's focusing on their on the growth of them. So, you're taking care of them, you're making sure they've got growth and development. Positive work environment, that's again taking care of those in your charge. Encouraging work-life balance, that's definitely taking care of their in charge. And empowerment, that's definitely taking care, because you're looking at developing them. So there's quite a few ones in there, but the main ones are growth and development, positive work environment, encouraging work-life balance, that really play into this quote. Effective leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. So taking care of those in your charge. So I'm just going to go through this. So creating a leadership team. So within an A team, you need people that you can talk with on the same level, basically, about issues. And I've talked into this already. So by having those weekly review meetings, we're going to talk about more of this in the rhythm of the business. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but you need to be able to talk to somebody. As a small startup, so I put here key part of retaining A players is having those leadership. But leadership, as it grows, that's key. So I'm starting. If you're a startup, or if you've not grown that much, or you're happy where you are, you may not have a leadership team. You may not be able to create a leadership team. I wasn't able to, which is why it took me longer to create one in Naylor than it was intelligent outsourcing, because I needed to grow Naylor accountancy to a certain level, and then so I could attract in talent in the UK at a higher salary. So what that meant was I joined a mastermind group, which allowed me to do that. So that's something you can do. You can create your own mastermind group, or you can join a mastermind group. Now, I have been a member since 2016, a member of the mastermind group which is run by Simon Chaplin and Mark Swindale. I can connect you if you want to on that, but you can create your own mastermind group. There's loads out there, but I've been there with them since 2016. But been part of that, anything like that, is well worth it. They do something called Bounce. I'm not selling it to you, but that's a very, very affordable rate as well. But you want to be talking to people if you haven't got the ability to create your own leadership team. For me, it's the biggest thing that's allowed me, having that leadership team, to step out and now focus on the strategy and moving both businesses forward. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to. And as a business owner, when you start, and you will know this, is that you have every single hat. There's 10 different hats. I do a 10 hats thing in Naylor Accountancy Services, which I don't think I'm doing in June. So I have a webinar for it. Also, you're very welcome to listen to those, because they are for businesses, not just clients of Naylor, but I don't really advertise it through intelligent outsourcing. But the 10 hats, everybody has to wear them at the start. And the idea is you give them to your leadership team, all these hats, and then they take them. I call them seats now, not hats. So we call them, well, within Naylor and NIO. So the hats, they have the hats. I have the visionary hat. I do have the sales and marketing hat as well, in both. I don't want to have that all the time, but at the moment I'm needing to, until we grow big enough to have somebody internally that we can keep at the directors type level, leadership level. But that's where we're going with all this. But have a look at creating your mastermind group, other accountants, if you've got that, so you can talk to people. Join one as well, like I said, in the mastermind group. For business owners, we do wear all hats at one point. It's key for you at some point, if you are growing and wanting to grow, to get rid of those at some point, or make sure you've got people who take lots and delegate lots from you. So grow the team as your business grows. That's what I was sort of saying, like your leadership team. I actually, just very briefly, I did an acquisition. It's in my book as well. But with the acquisition, I did that on purpose to get talent on board. So I was getting talent on board. The reason for that was I couldn't get client managers locally because they're just so expensive. Nobody's leaving their firms, or they were at the time. They weren't at the time. So I got that on board, and that, although I had a massive issue because they left within 3 months, I managed to get other talent on board. But I could do that because I suddenly had extra sales income, revenue that could afford those client managers as well from acquisition, and that was what allowed me to step out. And I've got some really good talent in the UK from the back of that. We were in a bad position. It was a really hard time. I was going to 4:30 every morning to get things done within Naylor Accountancy Services. Never want to go there again, but we do acquisitions every year now. So I've learned a lot. We've got a program going ahead, and we've got all that moving forward. So grow your team as your business grows. That's your leadership team. You need to make sure they know exactly what you want from them and give them clarity about it. And do highlight any issues. We've spoken about this before. Regular leadership team meetings, and it has basically what's allowed me to pull right away. Delegate has, or seats, whatever you want to call them. So that's when you get able to do that. When you've grown, you've got more people. That's why I like growth, because it's allowed me to do what I prefer doing, which is the strategy, growing, and looking at business as a whole, rather than just. I love the relationships, but that's a different time in my life now. I've moved on from them. I don't want to be talking to clients all the time. I want to be talking to partnerships that I'm looking at. I want to be looking at strategies, investments, what we're doing, how to grow, and what we're looking at doing. What can we do giving back? How can we do whatever we need to do there? Delegate hats doesn't mean abdicate responsibility. I've spoken about that already. It's delegation, not abdication. And there's a big difference. So it still falls down to you. You should still be accountable to everything as well. So that's how that works. So, oh my goodness, I've gone over, but I hope this is all right. I'm nearly finished. So leadership is the capacity to translate vision to reality. Warren Bennis. Basically, successful leaders can turn their strategy and vision into a tangible outcome through their team. And it is through their team. That's really key. So I love quotes. These things are great. I'm going to go this very quickly. I was never going to speak long about this. This has been longer, and I do apologize. It's been longer than I thought. So create an offshore team which grows your business. I'm talking about this here because for me, I wasn't being able to do what I did without having an offshore team, because that's been allowing me to offset all that doing. I was then doing relationships with the clients in NAS. And then I've been able to let new people that are coming on board, like the UK, do those relationships as well. So that has been really key to everything we do. So I am talking about why creating an offshore team is the intelligent way to outsource on Thursday, the 30th of May. That's 11:30. It will be on our intelligent outsourcing website. So if you do want to come to that, I'll be talking more about offshoring, outsourcing, the difference and why it's good and what to look out for in that. So I'm not going to really cover that more. These are just a few pictures of our lovely offshore team here in the Philippines that work for other partners. So here, just you are invited to Discovery Call if you want to meet the partnership team of Intelligent Outsourcing. You can email info@intelligentoutsourcing.co.uk or DM me. It's also, you can go on the website and connect if you want that. So it's a non-obligatory call or a Teams call with the offshore team, partnership team, just to explain what it's all about. And now, what do you know? You have a definition of leadership. You know how to lead your team effectively by being a multiplier. Now that Liz Wiseman, look her up, brilliant. 8 leader qualities, which I think are awesome. Listening is a really big one, and make sure you've got that vision. 7 key factors to retain team members. All of them are critical, basically. The salary is the first one, to be fair, but you need to make sure that, and then the well-being. why offshoring team can allow you to grow. That's just one option. Obviously, you can get apprentices and stuff in the UK, but it's a different offshore. You get the people who have already got the degree. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is the potential. So if you've got anything that you need to do from this and actions, that's what you should be looking at. I hope you've got some things from this. Now, questions. So I'm gonna just open up a question. I know we've overrun, guys. I'm really sorry. This is longer than I've ever expected. But if you would like to put any questions in, do. I will try and go through them as quickly as possible if there are any. So please do let me know. But here, I'm not big enough right now to have a leadership team. What size will I need to be in order to have a leadership team and benefit of one? Now, like I say, you don't have, you can do a mastermind group, like create one yourself, or you can go to one with the peers that you know already by creating one. For me, I was like 250 and I wasn't able to really create one. I had to get over that 250K mark. 250, you can probably do it with one person in your leadership team, but you have to get that right person. You might be lucky enough to have them. So I would say 250 plus to get a proper leadership team within your business. So if you've got 500K, you can create a really good leadership team. I'd say on 350, you can get a good leadership team as well. So this is turnover in your business. I'm just going on this. You can do it lower. Obviously, it just depends on the team members you've got and the talent you've got in the UK. Don't forget, I was offshore in virtually everything. I had only one team member here in the UK. At one point, it was literally just me in the UK because I had to get rid of a client manager here in the UK at COVID because we lost 60 grand worth of business. So I couldn't really afford to have him and then earn anything from my business. I was just literally paying him. Any other questions? So empowering your team members, what does this mean? I think I've gone over this quite a bit, but trusting. So you must allow them to make decisions and also make and that means also enabling them to make mistakes and learn from them. By learning from them, you can then actually do more at the back of it. So you want them to make mistakes. And do you really have no client contact with Naylor Accountancy Services? I don't have any. I do with 3 people, which is about once a quarter, because they're my really old clients. They still want contact with me. I'm not doing anything really. I just talk to them, go through their zero, and it's just making sure that they're happy. Because as long as they're happy, they'll stay with Naylor. One of them's a very big client as well. They're also friends. I've known them for years, so it's a very difficult one now. Why do you say you would? Why did you say you would be able to grow NAS and step out of NAS without having to offshore? Why would you say you don't, or you would not be able to grow NAS and Naylor Accountancy Services and step out of the accountancy firm without an offshore team? The reason is because they've taken all the compliance away. So a lot of that, I mean, the hard stuff, very difficult stuff is still done in the UK. But what that has meant is the UK team are then able to focus on the client relationship because that compliance work is done offshore. They do that. They even email clients. They talk to clients on the phone. So that all that bottleneck isn't with the UK. The UK can then go on and do that added value work, the annual accounts reviews, the management report reviews with the clients, bringing on new clients, as in talking to PNC of potential new clients. The onboarding is all done in the Philippines as well, in intelligent outsourcing admin team. So they do all the onboarding and offboarding, because we do have offboarding, that does happen. So we do have that there, but clients know about an offshore team as well. We're introduced to them as well. All right, guys, I've got a few more here, but I'll have to keep it a bit brief unless you're happy. So how do you get the team to buy into your vision? I'm not going to go into too much detail because I've done it The first of all is you need to believe it yourself. You must believe it yourself. I sort of mentioned that if you don't believe yourself, you're never going to get anyone else to believe it. And then you need to be, first of all, get your leadership to believe it. Then you need to be communicating the vision through your town halls, whatever you do with the rest of your team, when you're talking to your team, and then you can move it from there. I do have, my visions have grown massively. Okay, so just since even the start of this year, what we're going to do. Last year they developed massively. I don't share it with too many elite people, mainly just leadership, because it is quite, that vision's quite high. There's a lot of vision there going on, but I love it. It's my role and I'm really enjoying it, but I know it can happen. That's the whole point. I know we can do it, and we put all the partnerships and the things in place to allow that to happen as well. Okay, a couple more here. So I don't have the time. So yeah, you won't have the time to do lots of this. If you do need extra talent stuff, an offshore team will allow that at a reduced cost to the UK as well, or Canada, wherever you are, US. And the offshore team, say it's intelligent outsourcing, they would actually do all the HR for that as well. So under what we call talent happiness and success. So that's one. I don't know if there's any other questions. I am going to leave it at that if there's not, just because I'm aware that we've overrun massively. I do apologize. But so just to remind you, this is, if you need an offshore team, create a leadership team, whatever you need to do, it does help. It does move your business forward, or it allows you to do what you need. If you want to get my book, if you haven't got it already, I will be at Accountex in Canada in November, and in Toronto, and I'll also be at Accountex in Manchester in September, where I'll be giving away the book for free, but it is available on Amazon and it is available on Kindle at the firm you want. It's got pictures in, it's got quotes in, it's got stories in, it's an easy read. I've made it so it's easy to read, but look at some of the reviews. It's a very good read, an easy read for people, and I'm trying to help people with my knowledge that I've gained over my mistakes and through all the development I've done. We have got, just remind you of our growth formula series. The next one is the right business rhythm for growing your business. If you don't want to grow your business, it's also for keeping your business, but we'll be talking about that on Tuesday, the 25th of June. That's another webinar. I will look to make that 1 hour max. I thought this might be quicker. I think I put too much content in this, so I apologize, but I hope it's been well worth it for you. We do have, like I say, why creating an offshore team is the intelligent way to outsource. That's coming up next Thursday, actually, Thursday the 30th of May at 11:30. All the previous webinars are on our YouTube channel on intelligent outsourcing. And again, you can book a discovery meeting with our offshore partnership team by going to info@intelligent outsource or DM me. Passing quote. Bill Gates, I love him. You can go in, there's a Netflix program which I haven't actually watched much of. I need to watch it, finish watching it, but it's about going to Bill Gates' mind. But the key for us, number one, has always been hiring the very, very smart people. So hiring very smart people. So that's your A team, smart people. They get what you want, they want to do what you need them to do, and they have the capacity, that's brain power and time to do what you need to do. I call it GWC. So get it, want it, capacity. Thank you very much for joining me this Tuesday. I hope it's been useful. There will be a YouTube video on this, so you can also recommend it to anybody else if you liked it, and I hope to see you next month. Actually, you can also come to the next, 30th of May as well. Bye, take care. Bye.